All right, for 4-4 notes, let's first do a little review. So remember, similar shapes, okay, up here at the top. Similar shapes must have, maybe you're trying to remember, it should have two things. So one, corresponding angles that are congruent. And I'm going to emphasize the and part. Okay, because both of these things have to be true for two shapes to be similar, and corresponding sides that are proportional. Corresponding sides that are proportional. Okay. All right, so for this section, we have 3 shortcuts to show that triangles are similar. Okay, so our focus for the next couple of chapters is going to be on triangles. So the first one, AA, which stands for angles. Okay, so for AA, we're going to say 2 angles are congruent. Two angles are congruent. Okay, so let's go over to the pictures. Let's say we put these markings at B and D and these markings at C and E. Okay, so here we go. You notice in the picture that first of all, you're going to ask yourself always, just to get you in the habit, are these things triangles? So notice I'm just writing a triangle. I'm putting a question mark above the equal sign. Remember, are they triangles usually has to do with side lengths, right? Any 2 sides have to add up to be greater than the third. Usually our shortcut is showing that the 2 smaller ones add to be greater than the third largest side. So since our side lengths here are not labeled, we're going to make the assumption that yes, this is a triangle. There's nothing to lead us to believe that it is not. So then my next question I'll always ask myself is it a similar triangle? And I'm going to say yes. And when I say why, okay, so usually you have to back it up with why, your reasoning is going to be AA. As simple as 2 angles are congruent. Our abbreviation for that is AA. They have 2 angles that are exactly the same, right? B equals D and angle C equals angle E. Okay, that's a lot shorter than having to go through what the similar shapes must have corresponding angles that are congruent and corresponding sides that are proportional. So these are their shortcuts. Okay. The next one, 3 S's stand for sides. And so that's going to mean 3 sides are proportional. Okay. So let's go to the picture. Let's put lengths of 4, 8, and 6. And these 4, 2, and 3. Make sure you just have them in the same spots so that it makes sense for the notes for what we're going through. Okay. And then again, I'm always going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask myself, first of all, in these pictures, do I believe that they are triangles in the first place? Oh, well, these do have side lengths, so I do need to do some work. To prove that they are triangles, let's look at triangle ABC. I need to be showing that the 2 smaller sides, 4 and 6, add to be greater than 8. And 4 plus 6, 10, is greater than 8. So that's a check. And likewise, the second triangle, GHJ, if I said 2 plus 3 has to be greater than 4. The two smaller sides have to be greater than the third. 5 is greater than 4. Okay, that's a check. That is the work to tell me that, yes, they are triangles. Okay, so next question, are they similar triangles then? Not just triangles, but are they similar to each other? Okay, so I'll change colors so that you know that that's different work. So the similar triangles, remember I like to say, let's circle the smallest length. So that would be the 4 and the 2. Let's box the biggest length. That would be the 8 and the 4. And the medium length I won't do anything to. And 3 sides being proportional means you've got to show this work. Okay, it means that 4, the smallest over the smallest, 4 over 2 has to equal the medium over the medium, so 6 over 3 has to equal the biggest over the biggest, so 8 over 4. And reduce all of those. 4 divided by 2, 6 divided by 3, and 8 divided by 4 are all 2. Okay, so 2 does equal 2 does equal 2. You might reduce them to 2 over 1 if you were thinking about scale factor. Okay, but in the end, it really is just 2, 2, 2. Okay, so those are all equal to each other, so I'll take that back. And then, since they are equal, that means those are proportional, and therefore that answer is yes, they are similar triangles. And your reason, right, if somebody says why, well, you're going to say capital SSS, side, side, side. All right, now that we've done a couple, you probably know what 3 stands for. SAS would stand for side angle side. Okay, side angle side. So let's do our definition for that one first. We will say 2 sides are proportional. And, so this is important, and has to happen, and they have, those 2 sides have a congruent included angle. Keyword included. Okay, so notice this abbreviation up here has S and then the A and then the S. Hopefully that'll help you remember the included part that we're talking about. Okay, so I'll get back to that in a minute. Let's go add to our picture. Let's put markings at A and L. Let's put a 3 and a 5 for the first triangle, and a 15 and a 9 for the second triangle. All right, so here we go. If that was the problem, here's how I would start. First of all, I would ask myself, are these triangles? Well, since I only have 2 out of 3 side lengths, I have to make the assumption that yes, they are. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going to ask myself, are they similar triangles? Okay. So if it's this method, then I'm going to ask myself the following questions. First, do I have 2 sides that are proportional? So I'll start with saying, okay, I'm circling the smallest sides, the 3 and the 9. I'm going to box the largest sides, the 5 and the 15. I'll just see if those are proportional first. That means that work would be smallest over the smallest, so 3 over 9. Be consistent. If you start with the first triangle, you have to start with the first triangle the next time. So smallest over smallest equals the largest in the first triangle over the largest in the second triangle. Go ahead and do that work. 3/9 reduces to 1/3. 5/15 reduces to 1/3. Okay, so we've got that they are proportional. So that's 2 sides are proportional, but now we have to have this and statement. And they have an included angle. So notice this angle is included between the 2 sides that are labeled. This angle L is the angle between the two sides that are included. So in other words, guys, if I move that marking here, okay, instead, that would not be between the side of 15 and the other side that was labeled. Okay, that's what we mean by that, by being included. So this one, L does happen to be right in between the 15 and the 9 that are labeled. And for the first triangle, A does happen to be between the 3 and the 5 that are labeled. That's what we mean by an included triangle. Okay, so we have now answered that those triangles are similar. Okay, so that is a yes. And if somebody asks you why, based on the work that you just did, you're going to say side angle side, SAS, all capital letters. Okay, so those shortcuts are nice and handy to help us out. Okay, so notice for the problems that we're going to be doing that you'll see in your homework. We're going to ask you, are the triangles similar? What shortcut works? Okay, so show how. That in other words means side, 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 side angle, angle, those things. And then it says also name the triangles. Triangle ABC, and notice that symbol. That means similar. Triangle ABC is similar to what? Okay, so here we go. One thing at a time. First things first. On number 1, are these triangles? Okay, so you should at least be thinking quickly. 8 plus 10, two smallest sides have to be greater than the largest. So 18 is greater than 12. Likewise, you would be checking that 20 plus 25 is greater than 30. 45 is greater than 30. Okay, so that's a check. That means we're going to say, yep, they're triangles. There's nothing wrong with them. More particularly, are they similar triangles? That's our next question. And here's my thinking, guys, because people are always like, well, how do I know which shortcut to use? Notice the only thing labeled in this picture. The only things labeled are 3 sides. So your shortcut is either going to be SSS or you're going to tell me it's not similar. One of the two. Okay, that's my only option. So I am going to say, well, I need to check and see if the 3 sides are proportional. So here we go with that same work as always. If I circle the smallest length, 8 and 20, and I'm going to go ahead and box the biggest length, the 12 and the 30. And I quickly go ahead and do that work. I want to know, is the smallest over smallest, 8 over 20, equal to the medium over the medium, 10 over 25, equal to the largest over the largest, 12 over 30. Okay, you could reduce each of those, right? 8 over 20 reduces to, if you're reducing by 4, 2 over 5. 10 over 25, if you reduce by 5, would reduce to 2 over 5. And 12 over 30, if you reduce by 6, would reduce to 2 over 5. You need to verify that and make sure that you agree. Therefore, since those 3 sides are proportional, you're going to tell me, yes, these triangles are similar. You're going to tell me by, okay, so what shortcut works? That's what we're talking about here. And it does show how. Notice you already did that work in red. But you're going to say that they are similar by SSS, side, side, side. You just showed that work. And then the last thing, it asks you a different part. It says right here, name the triangles. So triangle ABC is similar to. That means, just like on a quiz or a test, guys, we'll already set up one of the orders. Triangle ABC is similar to, all right, well, what we're getting at is, remember it always says about corresponding angles and corresponding sides, meaning they have to be in the same spot. So here's how I look at it to get the order correct. If I'm going to start at angle A for the first triangle, that's just because of what they gave us. All right, here's me starting at A. Please notice where that angle is. It's between the side that is circled and the side that's not labeled. If you go to the same corresponding place on the triangle to the right, put a dot at the angle between the circled side and the one that is not labeled. Okay, the circled side and the one that is not labeled Q is in between that. Okay, it has nothing to do with them both being at the top anymore. It has to do with following the patterns. Okay, now next, if I'm going to go based on the name, right, based on this name down here, we went from A to B. We'll follow this. If I go from A to B along the circle, I need to do the same thing from Q. If I go along the circle, that lands me at P next. So I started at Q, I went to P next, and by default, the last letter has to be R. But if you want to prove it to yourself, you could say, well, I'd be going from B to C across the square. So I'm going to go from P to R across the one that is boxed. Okay. All right, so Q, P, R is the correct order for that based on what we just did. Okay. And that would be your final answer for naming the triangles. All right, let's try a few more. So notice in 2. Again, anytime I give you 2 out of 3 angles in a triangle, I hope your instinct is to find the other angle. So let's do that. 100 plus 50 is 150. Since the angles add up to 180, 180 minus 150 would give you this is 30 degrees. In the next triangle, 30 and 50 gives you 80. 180 minus that will give you 100 degrees for y. Okay, here we go. Here's my normal work. Are these triangles? Well, I don't have side lengths to worry about. So my assumption has to be, yes, they're triangles. More particularly, are they similar triangles? Well, again, if I'm trying to go with one of my 3 shortcuts, guys, notice the only thing labeled in this picture are angles. So you're either going to tell me it is similar by angle, or nothing. It's not similar. Okay, one of those 2. Those are the only options. All right, so are they similar? Well, the shortcut for angle says 2 angles are congruent. All right, guys. Well, if 2 angles are congruent, I'm set. So here's what I'm looking at. Notice, for instance, like this 100 degrees equals this 100 degrees. And likewise, I'll just go with colors. This 50 degrees equals this 50 degrees. By default, of course, the 30 equals the 30. It doesn't matter which ones I picked. It says I only have to have 2 equal. You can think about logically why. If 2 are equal in a triangle, isn't the third one obviously going to be equal? Yes. Okay, so you're going to say, yes, these are similar triangles. And when they ask you what's the shortcut or how, you're going to say by AA, angle. And then we're ready to go ahead and do our naming. So they're going to say triangle ABC. We're setting that up. So notice where A is. A happens to be the angle that is 100 degrees. The same place over here is Y. So triangle, you do need the symbol in front, capital Y. B is the 50-degree angle. Okay, so we're going to go from Y to the 50-degree angle, which is X. And last but not least would be Z. Make sure those are nice, big, neat capital letters and your Z's are crossed. Okay, here we go. Next one, number 3. Again, here we go. I'm going to say, give us a little more room. I'm going to start out by asking myself the same question always. Are these triangles? Well, since I only have 2 out of 3 sides labeled, I'm going to have to assume yes. Okay, nothing messing us up so far. Are they similar triangles? That's my next question. Okay, I typically look at what I have, again, for the shortcut, since I have 2 sides labeled in both of those triangles and 1 angle. That means the shortcut is either going to be SAS or it's going to be not similar. Okay, one of the 2. Either SAS or not similar. Those are the only options. So I like to look at this first. Now that we've explained what included angle means, that's what I always look at first. So please notice this angle is between these two sides that are labeled. This angle is between this side and this one, which is not labeled. Okay, so that angle is in the wrong place, if you will. Okay, it would have to go here at A to be included between the two sides that are labeled of 9 and 15. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, ask me for some clarification. All right, so we are right off the bat, that one fails. So similar triangle, you're going to be saying no, right? You're going to be saying the angle is not included. That's what that definition means. And we're talking about that one right there. That's the one that fails. Therefore, your answer is not similar. Again, that's your only answer. That's what you would put. Okay, for a homework or for a quiz. Don't tell me no solution or whatever else that you might be thinking or impossible. It's just not similar. So let's talk about notation like on a quiz or a test. Okay, so if you're doing this handwritten, I'm going to have it set up already. I'll have triangle ABC is similar to, and I'll have a blank, because obviously I'm not going to give you a tip off that this one isn't similar. So it'll say the same thing on every problem. Well, when you get to that, guys, all you do is leave it blank. It doesn't make any sense for you to say it's not similar and then fill that part in which says triangle ABC is similar to something. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. That's what that symbol means. So you would simply just leave it blank. All right. Okay, next, number 4. All right, so we'll have some more complicated pictures like this. Remember, we're still doing similar triangles. So I hope you see 2 triangles in this picture, right? They're just meeting point to point at B, if you will. So here's the extension you need to be able to do and why you have hopefully mastered your previous chapters. I see these arrows, which tell me parallel. That's all they tell you. Parallel lines. All right, so if you notice this, I'm going to unhighlight this in a minute, okay, but just to show you real quick, I hope you notice this forward Z with those arrows, which should tell you angle N and angle C are equal. Likewise, if I just use a different color before I mark them, if you do a backward Z, that should tell you, because of the parallel lines again, that angle A and angle Q are equal because they would be alternate interior angles. Okay, and then of course, these two in the X that are meeting each other, this one and this one, okay, which would require 3 letters, angle ABC and angle NBQ are equal because they're vertical angles. Okay, so if I get rid of all the markings, since there's so many of them, okay, you can go back and turn the video back if you want to see me create them. But the ones that we just said were these. Angle A and Q are equal, alternate interior. C and N are equal because those are alternate interior. And that is enough, but you could also mark these because they are vertical. Okay, that's up to you. So now that you've put all the information you know in the picture, right? You didn't make those up. You know that. You're ready to now go with, are these triangles? Again, we don't have side lengths, so our assumption is yes, they are triangles. Are they similar triangles? So in particular, notice the only thing labeled in that picture are angles. So it's either going to be the shortcut AA, angles, or not similar. So AA says 2 angles are congruent. Well, yeah, notice you've got the dots equal to each other and the single marks equal to each other. That's 2 sets right there. So yes, they are similar to each other. When somebody asks you by what, you're going to say by AA, angle, angle. And last but not least, you're now ready to do the order. So naming triangle ABC is similar to triangle. Okay, please notice where A is. A happens to be at the dot. So if you go to the angle that's labeled with a dot in the bottom, that is Q. Right? Okay, if these were separate triangles and we could call B, I just go with the symbols, guys. Notice it's kind of dot, the one with the single mark with the cross, and then the single mark. So if we're going from A to B to C, then you're going to go from Q to B to N. I'm just matching the symbols. That's all I'm doing. Okay, just matching the symbols. And I'll take that away just so it doesn't confuse us. Okay? All right, see what you can do with that. And I'll be ready to answer any questions.